Hey guys, my name is Ismail. Welcome to another Blender live stream. Today we're going to be making this scene here. So there's quite a lot of things here, but very simple and basic that I think it shouldn't take us a lot of time. And so let's begin, I guess, with this table here, and let's examine the structure a bit. I'll also bring the image directly here. Clear this, reset the orientation a bit because I want to get the height, and maybe I can also get the height of the table so that we have a scale to work with. So table measurement. So it's about, table measurements. Let me get this one here. So it is, let's see, coffee table, dining table is about 75 meters, 0.75 meters. So let's do that. Let's add a cube and hit N. Let me also bring up the shortcuts again and go to view. So in the dimension, so this is supposed to be 0.75 meters, 0.75, no, for the Z, 0.75, and then the width, I guess the width doesn't really matter because you can set any width. So 0.75. Let me find something that has a width. Okay. This is 2 feet. This is 3¼ inches. What is that? Let me see if this will work out here. So it should be, if we go up, 3¼ inches. Doesn't have that measurement. Let me see. Let me just convert meters, inches to meters. Let's see, what is 3 divided by 4? 0.07, 0.75 meters. Is this right? No, let's just wing it. Since we have the height, we can base the width from there. I think around there, if the height is like this. So we can scale down this image to fit our size here. So the legs should be the same height of the cube. So of course there is perspective distortion, and the picture was taken at an angle, so we don't have to align everything correctly, but I think this is a good starting point. This is a good scale, and this is also a good width. Let me see. Yeah, I think that's good width. Maybe scale it up a bit as well. And so this length can be about let me see, about that long. Yes, so now that we have the height, everything else we can match. We can use this scale for the tables and the room itself. But yeah, so let's move this aside and start working. So we can delete the bottom vertices. Actually, we do need that. So maybe let's bring up the measure tool and measure, just so we have a scale reference there. Okay, so this is supposed to be also here. Okay, and now we can, let me see, let's just leave the cube there, because if I delete these vertices, I will lose the height. So I will just add a new plane and make sure it fits the scale of our object. So we are going to be using a mirror modifier. So I'll add a loop in the middle and then delete these top vertices, and also delete these other vertices, and then add the mirror modifier. Let me turn on random colors and cavity so that we can see better. I then apply the rotation and scale, and then let's also make sure this is mirrored at the other side. I think this is too long, so we can scale this so it's around there. So to round off these corners, as you can see they're rounded, we can use Ctrl+Shift+B. Then I think they're about there. Now we are left with this end gun, so we can just make a cut from here to there, and then from here to there, so that we remove that end gun. And now we can extrude down like that to have something like this. But when you switch off the mirror modifier right now, you can see that this side, their faces we don't need, so we can delete them and turn back the mirror modifier. Also, this here is curved a bit. This area is curved, so is cavity turned on? Yes. So we can add a loop maybe around here, and let's see how we are going to do this. Instead, we can select these two loops and then bevel those, so something like this. Now if we turn on smooth shading and give this also a subdivision surface modifier, you can see that what we have. But you can see, because there are no supporting loop around here, it kind of bends off when the subdivision surface is working. So we can add a supporting loop around there, make sure it's flat, and also a supporting loop for this corner here, so that is flat like that. Now let's start working on the legs and make sure this is okay. Let's work on the legs and see how that goes. So we can begin by working on this support here. So let's add a cube, scale it down. And you can also bring this image just to work out the scale. So around there, and move it up so it touches the table around there. Go to front view, I'll push it around there as well. And we need to round this off as well. So I don't need these top facing faces, so I'll just delete those and select these corners and bevel them. So something like that. And let's center this. Shift S, cursor to selected, and then Shift S, selection to cursor. And we can move this down around there, and also make sure it's also on this side. And we can select, add a loop here, and delete these, and I use the mirror modifier for the other side. Now we can select this side, move it around there, I think. Maybe that's a bit too around there, and we can extrude again so that we can have this support. So for this we are going to need, I think, a loop here. So let's first isolate this. We don't need this first here, so we can subdivide this twice, and then join these two vertices. I think they need to be straightened, so I can select these bottom ones and then scale them in the Y direction, like that. And I think we can join this to this, and now we can select this side because it also has to be as rounded, so we can pull it back around there, maybe scale this something like that. Make sure the top is still straight. Like that. Maybe this is too big, so we can scale it in the X, in the Y. We need a loop cut here. And also this has to be a bit rounded, so we can curve it off like that. And let's see. I think we can delete these vertices up to here, so that we are remaining with this sort of thing. Let's see. Let me make sure this. So you can select these vertices. I think this, and this. Then extrude down like that. Add a loop around here. Then you can connect this to this. And then this to this. And then for this side, we need to fill that like that. Hey Ramesh, how are you? And Dromelo, Ramesh says, I am watching. Thanks. And Dromelo, hi man, how are you? Let's add a loop here. Bevel that. Push this like that. Then we need to connect these these two, and then this side too. Then do the same this side. And now we can make this as long as we want. So let me bring back. So if we give this a subdivision surface, You can see how it bends off, but I think this bend here is bigger than this, so we can pull this down and also bring this loop here down and select this as well, push it like so, and we would have something like that. Dromel is hard to get used to the new version. Well, if you do a few projects, you kind of get the flow of it, and you would get used to it. So the problem is when you start going back and forth between 2.79 and 2.89, it's going to be very hard for you to stick with 2.8. So I would recommend, if you want to switch to 2.8, if you want to switch to 2.8, make the switch and stick with it. Because right now the good thing is that it's in a beta version, and it doesn't crash as often as it used to. So your projects are safe as long as you save them. I think I need to make this larger, so let's see. Let's scale this in this direction like this. I think I also need to scale this leg here a bit more. Blam add-on is not yet. I'm not sure what that is. I rarely use, I never use plugins, mostly when I'm making tutorials like this, because it adds another step to anyone who wants to follow the tutorial. They would have to install the plugin itself, and if I don't think it's necessary to complete the project, I use that plugin. I don't use any plugin because it's easier to follow if I'm not adding plugins in the workflow. What was I saying? Living room. So the only plugins I use is this screen shortcut plugin. I rarely use any plugins. So I think this also needs to be bent a bit, so we can select these and then use the shear tool to bend them. And what this does is that it rotates the vertices, but keeps this aligned to the floor, flat on the floor. So I think we need to scale this down like that. I don't know, maybe this is too much. I rotated it too much, so I can bring it back just a bit. And maybe scale this back up a bit. So we need to move the center to there, so origin to 3D cursor, so that we can use the mirror on the other side. I think this area here, this is sharp at the top here, so we can select these top vertices to around there and delete them. Then we can let's see, because I want it to be flat like it is here. And cool trick, Ramesh, which trick? I need to turn on mirror modifier. Oh, the shear, yeah, it's a very cool trick. Because if you try to rotate, just to rotate these, this is what would happen. If you rotated this, they will rotate like this, and then you would have to come in and start changing the vertices, which makes it harder. and adds more steps. Let me first isolate this and turn off the subdivision surface. I need to connect this with this and also make this straight. We need a loop here to connect with this, and then a loop here. Let me zoom in a bit, connect this with this, and then this should be filled. We can make this straight like that. Now we can turn on. Now you can see we have that sharpness as well, but you see it is sharp and then straightens up or bends in a bit, so we can use the inset tool. So if I select this here, I can use the inset tool or the bevel tool. Now you know what, use inset to around there, and we can delete. I think that's too much. We need just a little bit, so inset to around there, and we need to remove these extra loops we don't need. So from here, in here, and to here, delete faces. Now we can pull them back and match them at the mirror center like that and like that. So now we can select this here and push that up just a bit like there, and we just need now to sharpen those edges. So I can add a loop there and a loop there to make that sharp as that, and we are done with the table. So let's work on the seat. Let me make sure to save this, save a backup project here. So for the seat, let's see what we are going to do. There are different ways to do this, but I think the best way to approach this is by let me remove this cube because we already have the tables, so we can use this as the scale reference. So for this seat here, what we are going to do, we are going to use the simple deform modifier. So we're going to model this as a straight object and then use the simple deform modifier to bend it. So I'll just add a plane, I'll scale it down, I'll rotate it 90 degrees to face me, and then let's see, we can scale this, and maybe we can also use a mirror modifier here. I'll delete these vertices, and let's see, can add a loop there, maybe bring this down to around there, add a loop here. So it's going to be, so these are the arm supports. Let's use a mirror modifier. Now we need some loops here, maybe. So if we add the subdivision surface, we get something like this. Now we can add, it also bends. Ramesh, this chair looks complex. Yeah, it is, but I think this is an easier way to make it. So you make it flat like this, and then add the simple deform modifier. So simple deform, change the bend, change it from twist to bend, and sometimes it's hard to figure out the direction of the bend. So what I usually do is you can try using these, but they also sometimes are confusing how they work. So what I usually do is just use an object. Let me change this back to X. I just use an object, an empty like this, move it to the object. So Shift S, cursor selected, Shift S, selection to cursor, and then use that as the bend object. Now you can rotate it in any direction until you see the right direction. So you can see if you rotate it 90 degrees in the Y, you can see that it will be rotated in the direction we want. So rotate 90 degrees in the Y axis. So we just need to rotate this, rotate 90 degrees, rotate Z 90 degrees, X or Y. Let's see, you can just select both and then rotate them, rotate 180 degrees like that. So you can see that we have got the curve. Maybe we can give this a smooth shading like that. I think we need more topology, so we need this simple deform should be above the subdivision surface. And if we let's see, yeah, bend modifier is really difficult for me. Yeah, it is, because sometimes it's hard to get the orientation of the bend right. So that's why I'm adding this empties to control the to use it as the control object, and that makes it easier to bend. So let me add more loops here so that we get that bend right. Think we can also just turn on this in edit mode, and so that we can edit them directly here. Think now we need to give it this volume here. So for that we can just add a simple deform, the solidify modifier, give it a thickness around there. Let's maybe a bit more thickness. Let's first turn off the subdivision surface. Sorry, the subdivision surface. It should also be down, and then we can apply. Let's also turn on flash shading so that we see the thickness we are adding. Maybe this is too much, so we can reduce that. Let's see, where is that thickness? Down a bit. Let me first apply the rotation and scale to around. I think that's good enough. Let's see. I think we need to pull these vertices down a bit, so I'll turn on proportional editing and bend them like that as well. And we can apply the solidify modifier. So I think this side needs to be a turn on proportional editing, pulled like that. We can add a loop in here. Solidify modifier, not shell modify. Yeah, shell modify is, I think, in is it 3ds Max? Yeah. So I'm using Alt S. I'm using Alt S to pull them in the direction of the normal. To pull this loop in the direction of the normal. So something like this, so that we can bend this over. I want more resolution here, but the problem is that if I add a loop here, it will just add extra loops in this side that I don't need. So also let me correct this mirror modifier, add clipping for this mirror modifier, and let me first turn off the bend, the simple deform, and then correct this. So that is like that. So instead of adding a loop here, I'm just going, instead of adding a loop that goes all the way to this side, that will simply add more resolution where we don't need it. We can just rotate it around, I think, here. So if you select this, and then this, and then this, and then this, and then subdivide, we can add a loop that rotates like that. So you can see if we add a loop there, instead of it going all the way this side, it will just rotate around like that. So we need to just correct some of these. Yeah, the knife tool will be helpful, but then you will have to add. I think it would be a lot of work for this part here. It would just what I did. I think is more easier than using the knife tool because it would subdivide the area, the edges in the middle. But if you use the knife tool, let's say you would have to do this. And it wouldn't be in the middle, it would be just estimating, and then you would have to do that again. It's a lot of steps for me, so that's why I'm choosing to do. So if we add the bend, there is pinching here. Okay, so it seems that we have a few faces. If we turn off the mirror modifier, we have faces here, so we can delete them. Because if we have those, you'll see that there is pinching there, so we need to delete them. So that is curved like that. Now we can add the shading, and now we can start adding these support legs. So let me turn off simple deform and subdivision surface. So the support legs are around here. The first one, let me around here, and you just need to extrude down and it should be the height of the table. So this is around here, so it should be around there. But I think we need more resolution for this. So we can either add a loop that goes all the way there, which I think is okay since we need that resolution anyways. So then we can push these, scale these so that this is rounded like that. Maybe we can move this edge loop in a bit like that. You can see it starts out small and then becomes big at around here, so we can add a loop for that, scale that out. Now if we turn on subdivision surface, then the bend modifier, you can see what we have. I think it's too big or thick at the top here, so we can scale that in and then scale that in like that. Nice. And so we also need the support for the back here. So for that, let's also first turn off these modifiers again. So where are we? Here. And then let's see. So we can use it's around here. So I think what we can do is, let me see if we can get away with that. We can add a loop here, or we can just bevel this. Control B, bevel that. Maybe join this with that, and then join this with that. We can remove this edge loop, so maybe join that with that. Now we need to make that like that, and maybe smaller. And we can, why you not make support separate? It is helpful, to duplicate later. Why do I, what you mean, why I don't make the legs separate? I just want to keep it as one mesh instead of having too many objects. And you can see this is not, it also looks like it's like welded into the, obviously this is wood, so it can't be welded, but it's kind of glued to the object. You don't see any separation directly here. I think it was how is it called, brushed, I don't know, to make it look like yeah, thanks guys. So let's extrude this as well. So I'll scale this down and then extrude to the same level as these legs. And just to be sure, I'll just select these and scale them at the same level, and then add a loop here and add a loop around there. So now if we turn on this, we have that. We need a support loop for the bottom part. I think this is too big, so we can scale it down and maybe add a loop here. Scale it down as well, add a loop here, scale it down as well, so we have something like that. And now when we turn on the simple deform, we get something like this. But I think we need, let's see, we can, let's scale this in the X direction and see. I think these legs, I don't know, let me see. If I turn off the subdivisions, I think they need to be bent a bit, so I'll use the shear tool, bend them like that, and maybe forward a bit, so something like that, and I can move them forward as well, small, and then also do the same for this. They need to be bent just a bit, and bent also backwards a bit, so move that to the back like that, and then turn on the simple deform, and then we have something like that. Let me turn on, edit them directly here, because I see these ones are bending inside instead of outside, so I'll select them, use the shear. What direction is this? Yes, I think it's supposed to be bent out like that. It's going out too much, so we can pull it. Yes, so now we can add this here. I think, let's see, can we separate this as an object, or should we just do this directly? Let me turn off the simple deform. So we need the support. We need this here, so it should be around here. So if we bevel these loops, we can also, I think we can connect this loop, this face. We can bridge this face to this bridge, to this face, to have something like that. We would need a few loops here, but that would make this area too sharp. So let's first add a few loops here, and turn on the subdivision surface. So this would look like this. I think we also need a few loops. So if I select these edges and maybe this here and this here and this side as well, the bottom part, I can bevel them like that. And now if we turn on subdivision, you can see what we have. We need to do this. So if we turn on the curve, sorry, the simple deform, we get that. But we need more loops here so that we follow. Because you see right now it's just straight. We need to add more loops here so that it can also be bent. Maybe that's too much bend, but so it's okay. It doesn't have to be exactly what we have here. So we also need to do the same for this side. Let me turn off simple deform. For this side, we need to extrude this and delete the inside loop and select these edges. Then bevel, simple deform, then that. See what we have. If you want to make them straight, you would just bend them inside or reduce the simple deform, but I don't want to reduce the simple deform, so I would just bend them the opposite direction. Maybe I think this is too much, too many vertices. Makes it harder to edit, so I will remove that and also remove that. Select this, scale it in the X direction. Let me first turn off subdivision. Scale X, kind of proportional editing, scale X. Now, if you don't want it to be bent like that, you can just bend it the opposite direction to offset the bend of the subdivision of the simple deformer. So you get something like that. I think we also need to, because you see this bend here, I don't want it, so I can, let me first turn off subdivision. It slows down my workspace. I don't know why. I use the shear tool for this and it's not helping. I'll just do that and also bring this in like that. So now we have something like that. So we also need to do the same for this area, and for that, if we turn off this, we would select this. We need to select this face, maybe scale it a bit like that, then extrude it in that direction. I can delete this face. So if we turn on a simple deform, you can see what happens. I think we'll do that after we apply the simple deform, because it's bending it in the wrong direction. So let's undo. And after you confirm that you are good with what you have done, you can apply the simple deform. But I think we need to fix a few issues here. So let me first turn off the subdivision surface. I can select these vertices, bring them up. You also need to come up like that. Now we can have that. So I think this is also thicker than what we have here, so I can just come in, select, let me turn off this subdivision surface, and then select these here and push them down, and select these top ones, push them up, and then we would have something like that. I think it's also bending a bit down, so for that we can, let me see how that would be. Can we use the shear tool? I think it's only these forward facing supports, so if we bend them just a bit like that, not too much, just a bit, you can see that bend is also applied. So let's I think we need to increase the curve a bit. So if we go to the simple deform, I can increase this even further. Let's see, to around there. And let's bring this. Okay, let's apply the simple deform. Yeah, something is wrong. We need to first apply the mirror and then the simple deform, and so that we have something like this. This is getting difficult. I don't think it is. It's just most of the steps I've done so far are just repeating and correcting a few things, but yeah, you just have to do it, to practice it a few times, and you will get it right. So let's see, origin to geometry, yeah. Set this 90 degrees. So we have, maybe this seat is a bit too big, so we can scale it down. This looks like a miniature chair, so I will just try and correct that. So these legs need to be a bit longer. This may need to be smaller. This needs to be maybe this bend here, I think, should be smaller as well. So I can select this, turn on proportional editing, and then scale that. And I think, yeah, that's good enough. So if we turn on subdivision surface, now we just, I wonder how Carpenter bent that. Yeah, I think there is a machine they use to bend this wood. I've seen such chairs being done before. They just bend only this part here. So you can see everything here is a bit straight. So if they bend this, they just glue these together. So it's difficult, but yeah, it's also quite some good woodwork. So now let's work on this cushion. So for that, you can just select a loop that goes around here. So let's see. Let me select I think from here to here. Let me see. Let me first isolate this. Or let's just add a cube. There is no resolution. I think we can just add a plane, scale it down, subdivide, use the mirror modifier, extrude. We can also turn on subdivision surface. Make sure that we have clipping turned on and delete these faces and make sure these are connected like that. Now we need supporting loops here and at the back here. We can bend this in a bit, so I can select this with this, then bend that in just a bit, and I also maybe pull this, turn on proportional editing, and then pull this in front a bit like that. And I think we can select, let's first turn off this here. Are you going to model the whole room? Yeah, I think so. And then I will separate. I'll just separate the video in 2 parts and then upload them as separate parts. But the live stream will still be there as a complete thing. I can turn this off, and so we have something like that. Pull this down. Now we can turn on proportional editing, and now we can also come into this and select this face. We can delete this side, then select this, extrude to there, delete that face, and use the mirror modifier. Make sure it's above that. Turn on clipping and then collapse these vertices. Need to pull this out so that it doesn't intersect with the cushion. So something like that, and I think it bends also down a bit, so we need to add that in like that. How do you think it's possible to go in the future in art modeling and rendering? Right now I am in the Latin America. You know, I don't know how to answer that because I'm also not in that field. I'm mostly modeling. I'm mostly selling my models, and they're all over. I'm not really specific in what niche I'm concentrating in. So, but it's always possible to enter any field if you have the courage and persistence that is required, and the knowledge, obviously, that is required for that field. Anywhere. But for me, I just sell 3D models, and so I make them and upload them. So yeah, that's what I do. So I don't really have an experience in what field you are trying to enter. What did I do here? I messed up here, so let me fix that in a second. I think we need to push this side here. If we select these faces, we have something like that. So we are done with the table. So we can, I think I can merge this with this so that I only have to deal with one object. So just extend this table a bit so that it can accommodate more than one seat. So just select this. I think I can move it with the second with these supporting legs, and so around there. And select this, maybe rotate it a bit. Shift Alt D to duplicate it, and Alt D to duplicate it again and again, like that. So I think we can extend the height of the table a bit. And we pull these back a bit so that they don't intersect with the table. And yes, now the parts that are left are quite simple. Just these walls, that painting, the mug, the plant. The plant can take some time, so let's add a floor. So I think the room is about this big. Now we can extrude this up. It's quite some tall ceilings. Nice, really tall ceilings around there. Now that's too tall, so around there. Maybe the room is narrower than this, like that. So let's add the window. So add a loop there. Control B to bevel that. And then add a loop up and then down, and then it's quite a big window, so I can bring this loop around there, then extrude out and then delete that face. So let's position our camera and see. Let's see, can we turn on back facing? It can be turned on in here. So back facing. We need to flip the normals, Shift N inside. That way we can easily see, we can easily position our camera, so it would be around here. Control 0, sorry, Control Alt 0, not Control 0. Thanks, Ramesh. But I think I'm going to be using Blender Eevee. My computer is not really that powerful for to use cycles, so I want to position this camera, but I'm having issues. Control 0. And we can play around with the angle, so maybe this is a 30mm lens, because you can see the floor and most of the room. So let's go back to layout. We need to recalculate normals for this and this object here. So let's work on this window here, window frame. I think it's quite simple, so we can begin by selecting this loop here. This, and that. Shift D to duplicate it, P is to separate it as an object, and then I can hide this for a second, and I can extrude this out. And let me turn off back facing for a second here. Shift N. scale this. What does recalculate does? So yeah, I was just recalculating normals. Normals are just how Blender knows the side that is facing you and the side, because every object has a front side and a back side. So that's how Blender knows what the front side and the back side is. And when you turn on, let me unhide this, because you can see right now I can't see inside the cube unless I'm seeing through the window. But you can tell Blender to hide the sides, the back side, and then only show you the front side, and you can do that using back facing. And the way Blender knows the back side and the front side is by using the directions of the normals. So by default, the back side of the cube is the inside part. All text and images are also unloaded. I'll see how to fix that. So by default, all normals are facing outside, making the front facing, the outside faces are the front side, and then the back faces the back, the back sides. So when you flip normals, Shift N, you will have switched the direction of the normals to tell Blender which that the inside faces should be the one to show, and then the outside faces should be the ones to be hidden. And you can see, so this is the default. And now if I Shift N, flip the normals inside, it will do the opposite, so that I can see the inside easily. I don't know if that was a good explanation, but yeah, basically that's what it is. Let me go back to this. Where is my plane? I think it's, let me first hide this here. Turn off the back facing, and now we can extrude this in like that, and we need to give this that depth in, so we can add a loop in here and then bevel that to around there, and then use the extrude along normals to have that. And we also have the window frames themselves, but we also have this extending thing here. So for that we can add a loop cut here, but right now if we add a loop cut, it will just rotate around the object. So what we can do is I can select this loop, this bottom part, maybe pull it up and then extrude down, so that if I want to add a loop that goes around, I just add it there. And if I want to add a loop that goes here, I can do that as well. So you can select this loop and extrude along normals. Maybe scale it in the X direction as well to have something like that. Now we need to make these window frames. For those, that should be easy as well. So we can just select this loop, Shift D to duplicate it, make it a separate object, and can go to front mode, select these bottom vertices, drag them up to around there. Basically we are repeating the same steps here, and then extrude them in, scale them a bit, then extrude like that. And then we also need an inside loop, bevel that, and then extrude along normals like that. And we can add a loop there and a loop there, bevel them, Control B, select this, insert it, select this, insert it, and then select this, bridge faces. Then we can do the same for this top side. We can add a loop in the middle and also here. Now we also need I think 2 loops, one here and one here. Okay, yeah, we're going to use a mirror modifier for this because I don't want to repeat this at this side. So just origin to geometry. Actually, let me select this loop here, shift S, cursor to selected, and then origin to 3D cursor, and then add a mirror modifier in the Y. Then we can add a loop there, but make sure it is straight, so scale in the Y direction 0, then here, and then repeat that at the bottom like that. I also can add a loop here so that I don't have to deal with the bottom part. I can use the mirror modifier for that, so I will delete this bottom part and I use and mirror that down. Now we can select this loop and this loop, Control B to bevel that around there, and can select this loop. We can insert this one here so that is the same size. So insert, but it shouldn't have this face. No, I think it can have that face, but this face should be the same size as this one bit at the bottom. So we can go to wireframe and make sure that they are. So we can scale this so that they align correctly. I think this should be around here. And then we can bridge faces. So it seems they're a bit bent, so what we can do is first move them in the middle. So grab them and move them to around there and select, let's see, select this face, scale it in the Y direction, select this face, scale it in the Y direction, then make sure that they are in the center. So just selecting these. So make sure these are straightened like that, and now we have our window frame. Let's see the bottom. I think there is nothing much there, so we can just select this here. How to make model with their real world size. You can use the measure tool to measure every object you use, and I think this is roughly the real world size because since we measured the table and we are measuring and we are modeling every other object based off the size of the table, I think we have a fairly good size to work with. Just need to extend. So I can apply the mirror modifier for this and select this, drag it down. So this is supposed to be on this side and that on the other side, so we can unhide this. Turn on back facing. You can see what we have. I don't know why my cavity is not showing, it's not coming up very nicely. You can see how this looks. We can also get the same dimension here, so I will just flip the dimensions. So 1080 by 1920, so that we get the same aspect ratio. Maybe we can reduce this. Let's see what else. We can work on this frame. Shift A. You know what? I already have a frame. I already have a few books. I think I also have a plant. Let's just import those in and see how things go. But first, let's do some lighting here. So let's go to shading. I will hide this and bring my image editor and bring back my reference image here. So let's turn on ambient occlusion. Let's turn on as it called screen space reflections. First thing we can do is go to world settings and give it a background for an image lighting background. So I'll open text HDR. I will use this one here, and I can add a light, a sunlight, sun in this direction. We can see the light is going through walls, so I can go under shadow and turn on contact shadows and increase the exponent value. If that doesn't do it, I can also increase the distance here and maybe the softness and see what value takes that out. Maybe bias, I don't know. Sometimes it's hard to figure out what value takes out that light going through the windows. So let's see. Let's add textures for this. So we can select this. We need to UV unwrap this, so I can separate. I'll add seams where I see seams here. So I can add a seam around here. Control E, max seam. Then I think I can add a seam right around there. Let me first turn on this, turn off this. Do you work in other softwares? Your work is impressive. There will be more people like you in the world. Thanks, man. I used to work in Cinema 4D and 3ds Max, but yeah, I stopped because it's too expensive, and Blender is free. So let's go back to shading, new material, I'll find the textures. And just use this, connect the color. Not sure if this is a good scale, but I can use the mapping here, change the scale a bit, scale it up a bit. I think it was good enough, so I'm going to be using only one texture for all the maps here. So I will separate the color from here. So go under vector, separate RGB, bring this image here, and if we preview this, you can see that's the red channel, green channel, and then the blue channel. So we can use the red channel for the roughness, and then the blue channel for the displacement. The color channel will just go directly to the color, but we can preview, just so for preview purposes, let's just look at these only. Maybe we can switch off the roughness for now. You can see the displacement is a bit too much, so we can use a convert math node, change the operation to multiply, and the value should be around 0.1. I think that's too much, because you can see this is fairly smooth. 0.5, maybe that's too much again. 0.01, around there. And for the roughness, let's bring this in. But I think we need some contrast here, so, more contrast here, so I can add a car ramp here to control the roughness a bit. With that, I think Blender is better than all 2D, better than all 2D, 3D softwares out there. Well, it is really a good software, but I don't think it's in some areas it's better than other areas, but you have to understand that these other programs have been around for a while, and they have had a lot of they have a lot of money behind them, so they're good at they're very good at certain things better than Blender. But Blender is also, now that it has its own developer funding, yeah, it's getting somewhere where it can compete with other 3D applications. Let's give this the same wood material. And let's preview this. We need to UV unwrap this, but I think I can apply the mirror modifier for now. Unwrap. Can add a loop around, I think there, Ctrl E, maxing, and then unwrap. I think we can also add a light here, so light, Shift A, light, area light. Take 90 degrees in the window here. I can go to the lights, turn on contact shadows as well. And we can bring in, we can also add irradiance volume. Make sure it's enclosing the entire scene. This will help us calculate indirect lighting. So we can come in, let me bring back, turn on subdivision surfaces for this. So we can bake the indirect lighting, but I also think we can add the reflection cube map. Center it, and so this will bake the reflections so that all the objects have perfect reflections, have good reflections. For other softwares also use nodes for. Yes, they do use nodes. Let me UV unwrap this. I'll first turn off this, and I can add seams where you see seams here. So there would be a seam right around here. So Ctrl E, max seam, and Also, I think we can add a seam right around there, through there. Let me turn off the mirror modifier for a second. Control E, max seam, and then here. Basically, I'm adding seams where I think these legs would connect with the other objects, with the other parts of the chair. So there, and here, maxing. And the reason I'm adding this seam under this, because the camera will not be seeing that side. So max seam. Max seam. Let me first hide this. I don't know why it's getting slow. Let me turn on simplified. I think we also need a seam for this object here. And that seam can continue all the way to the bottom here. Control E, max seam. Do the same for this. Control E, max seam. Then we need to separate this part and this part, max seam. Also do the same this side and this side, max seam. Control E, max seam, max seam. We need to add a seam for this as well. So Control E, max seam, max seam. Now, if we go to UV, we can unwrap, and this is what we have. I'm not going to apply the mirror modifier for this, so yeah. Let's go to shading. We can use this. I think the bump mapping is a bit too much, so and I also maybe we can scale up these UVs. Let me first rotate them to maximize the space. I think this should be around 0.001. And this here, I don't know which part is that. Is it? So this part, and this part should be rotated like this so that the texture goes in this direction, except this area here. It should be rotated like that. Now it's in the back, but so when we turn off simplified, this would look something like this. Let's go back to shading. I'll bring back the reference image here. I think we need more saturation in this here, so we can add a color, RGB curves, and maybe increase some contrast here, give this some contrast, not too much, boost the reds up around there. I think we need a better texture, so let me see if I can find one. By the way, all these textures, I downloaded them from cc0textures.com, so you can get them for free there. Let me see. And they come with I think 4 or 3 channels, diffuse, roughness, and normal map, and then displacement map, so you can connect them directly in to their respective inputs. But for this project, I want to keep everything simple, so I'll just use only one. Let me see how this one looks. It's too rough. Let's try using this one here. So just now we just need to reduce that yellow. We bring in more. You know what? Let me just use this one here. I'll switch up the textures later, so because I think this is getting a bit long. Let me reduce the red. Need to reduce the light coming in. Let's say 5. So this top area, this top section needs a different material, so I can add a new material. Then let me first isolate this, I can just select this island, sim island. Now I need to go on now. Thank you for the tutorial, really helpful. And yes, yeah, thank you too for being around. Really appreciate it. Have a nice day. So I was assigned this to this slot here. Now I can apply a new material. Now if we go to rendered mode again, I can make this black, give it some roughness. I think this texture is too big, so I can go to edit mode, scale this up. Let's see, let's go back to shading. I'll find better textures, but for now let's just complete this. So this is too smooth, so I can find a texture that I can apply in the roughness maybe. So I can also use some contrast here, control how sharp the reflections are. So just reduce this, and I think I need to scale this noise up. So by adding mapping, I'll change the scale to about 5. You see, we're getting some repetition there, maybe 2. The floor can use the same texture as the chairs, so I can just go here, select this bottom part. Let's first give this wall a texture, that material, and then get a new material slot, then assign that to the wood. So this window can get that grayish material, so it also needs to extend. Now we can bake the lighting, indirect lighting, and see how this looks. I think there is too much light coming in, and maybe we can change, make the walls a bit darker to add some contrast, and reduce some of the light that is coming in. Maybe let's remove this. Can increase the ambient occlusion a bit. And let's reduce the light that is coming from the outside, from the sun. So let's do 5, and let's bake. I think this cushion also needs a different material. I had forgot about that. So for now, let's just use the same as the table. This here. Nice. I think it's this. I think this here needs to be darker. This wood needs to be darker. Let's bake again. I'm not sure why it's becoming dark as that. Oh, I think it's because of the walls. Well, let's see. Maybe because I reduced the light too much. And the walls should be back to white. Now let's bake this again. Remember, I'm using Blender Eevee, so it's not very accurate. So I'm going to test out cycles and see how that comes out. Because you can see it's a bit dark. I'll try to switch out beta textures and play around with the lighting. And let me see how this would look in cycles. I need more lighting. And maybe it can feed this color directly without changing its values, or maybe making it a bit brighter. So let me add a color, mix RGB, then boost that a bit. To around there. Maybe let's try scaling this up a bit and see 3. And let's use cycles. So for cycles, I can add back the area light. And change this to cycles. And this light, we need to use it as a photo, but we need to increase also the light here to something like 100. Okay, so I'll end the live stream here because I think everything is slowing down. Yeah, thank you for watching and thank you for the support. I'll see you in the next video. So I will have this project up on my CG Trader account and my Patreon account if you want to download the model or the project. And I'll also try to change the materials and everything, and I will post the render results on in the community tab or you will see them on my CG Trader account. Thank you.